Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank the invitation. I think this is a great opportunity for me to meet the organizers for this journal. I think it's really good for us to explain more about what everybody doing. So my lab has been a long interest in looking at the bile acid sphingolipids. So the major reason is for a long time, bile acid, people always think which is a detergent. So the major function, which is help us only for the digestion lipids, nutritions in the GI tract. Things identification of the first bile acid receptor, FXR, actually it has been shown that bile acid not only is a detergent, it's also very important signaling molecules. So in the past, almost, I think more than a decade, a lot of study has been shown that bile acid, which can play a very important role as a signaling molecules in different liver disease, which including the metabolic dysfunction associated steatotic liver disease, MESO, which is recently got this new name, previously called NAFL. And also, it's very important in the alcoholic induced liver injury. So all these disease actually they are related to the liver. As we know, liver is only the organ which make the bile acid. So it has been a lot of clinical study has been shown that in this patient, they are significantly dysregulate the circulation of the bile acid. You can see not only the bile acid level, which is changed, but also the composition is also changed. So the major target actually, of course, FXR, which is the first nuclear receptor identified, which can be activated by bile acid, and also later on in the 2002, another the first G protein couple receptor TGF5 is also identified, play a very important role, and all these they are related to the metabolic functions. So in addition to that, our lab actually first identified another receptor, sphingosine 1-phosphate receptor 2. So we identified the bile acid, which can also activate this receptor. And it's very important activation of S1PR2 by bile acid can be regulate the hepatic, not only lipids and also glucose metabolism. So in addition to that, in the liver, S1PR2 is also very important to regulate the inflammation and the fibrosis. So we think the still have a lot of questions haven't really been very clear because considering the complex composition of the bile acid and also the different location in the liver or in the gut, even in the circulation, and they may have a different functions. I think this is why we are continually working on this direction, try to identify more detailed function for the bile acid. So plus recently identified a newly bile acid, which is modified by gut bacteria. There are so many different species. So, and then still have a lot of question, a lot of need to do. I think but I do think the bile acid and the sphingolipids, they are interplay each other, play a very important role in different type of liver disease. I think in response to this question, as I just mentioned in the earlier, of course, bile acid, they can activate different receptor and signaling pathway. But under the disease condition, I think the change of the level and the composition of the bile acid, which is really important, linked to the different either physiological or pathological conditions. So or for example, if you have dysregulated gut liver intrahepatic bile acid circulation, because we know the bile acid from the hepatocytes generated go to the cholangiocytes and start in the gallbladder and then go to intestine. All these pathway and then they involve a lot of transporters. So I think the potentially target for the bile acid is not only this receptor, it's also depend on these different type of the transporter, whether they are either uptake or they pump out this bile acid from the liver. So this regulation with different insult, for example, if you have inflammation, if you have a lipid accumulation, if you have like alcohol drink, so these all can induce the dysfunction of these transporter at the same time, and they can impact the composition of the bile acid. And then different bile acid, they also can induce different type of liver injury, which including like ER stress and oxidative stress. And then in the liver, as we know, is very important immuno organs. So the dysregulation of these bile acid and sphingolipids, and they can specifically dysregulate the function of the different type of the immune cells. So this is another one of the area we are recently working on that. So when you have the accumulation of the different bile acid, you will see the changes of the T cells and then macrophages and in the liver. And then these dysregulate the immune response, and which can contribute not only the liver injury, and eventually they also can be contribute to the different type of liver cancer, including the HCC and the cholangiocarcinoma. And then in addition to that, I think the potential target for these bile acid sphingolipids regulated pathway, which is also they can involved in regulate the other lipids metabolism, for example, phospholipids. And then these are also can be related to that. And then of course, in the sphingolipids, another major species, which is ceramide. So recent study also has been shown that in the human patient samples, you can see the dramatic change. And then with a different type of the ceramide and also the different composition of other sphingolipids. So I think this is a new direction. We try to identify whether we can use the combination of the bile acid composition and the level, and also the sphingolipids composition and the level as a potential diagnostic markers for the different type of liver disease. So for example, based on our study, which is very preliminary, but I think it's very interesting, we can see the bile acid and sphingolipid composition in a MAFO or MASH disease patient, which is different from the alcoholic liver disease patient. So maybe we can use a combination of diagnostic markers combined with these bile acid sphingolipids, maybe can improve our current either diagnostic and prognostic in the clinic settings. I think that this is really good question, because usually when people are looking at these bile acid, and then they focus on either in the intestine or in the liver. So not many people actually they are looking at the link with cardiovascular disease and also the liver fibrosis. And until recently, actually, it has been some study very preliminary reported that actually if you have the liver fibrosis, and you will see increased risk for the cardiovascular disease. I think one potential mechanism for that is, I think a lot of study previously already showed the sphingolipids, which linked with cardiovascular disease, especially for the atherosclerosis. As we know, S1P is also inflammatory mediators. So, and these in the actually it's not only intestine cells, in the cardiovascular, in the blood vessel epithelial cells, you will see the change of the S1P, and it also can be linked with like atherosclerosis by recruiting those macrophages, and then they can promote the formation of the actually cardiovascular plaques. And then this is a very interesting study, because when we're looking at these cardiovascular disease, actually they are closely linked with metabolic disease. But I think that until recently, and people didn't really pay enough attention to connect with bile acid with cardiovascular disease. Actually, we already see in the animal models, if you have cholestatic liver injury, in other words, if you have accumulation of the bile acid in the liver, which can induce the severe liver fibrosis. So in these mice, actually, the function of the heart, which has dysregulated. So I mean, this is indicating that somehow they have a link. So I think one of the potential link, which is inflammation, and then because macrophage, they not only can go into the liver, and they can go to anywhere, including in the blood vessel. I think this is very important for the cardiovascular disease because of the accumulation of these fatty, we call the foaming cell of the macrophage. They are filled up with all the lipids, and then they can cause the atherosclerosis. So, but I think still have a lot of question, which is really need more studies to figure out what kind of bile acid, so they can contribute to this cardiovascular injury, and also which specific sphingolipid species they are more dangerous to induce this cardiovascular disease. But in the liver, as we already showed that the ceramides and then different conjugated primary bile acid, they can activate different receptors, and also they can promote the liver fibrosis. So we think there are very important connection is these immunocells and the inflammations. These can all cause both in the liver and in other organ, and including the heart. So, and also the blood vessel. I think there's a very close connection, and also this is very interesting new field. We really need more expertise, and then in both liver and then in the cardiovascular area, which can collaborate together, and then can advance our current understanding for that. I think the one major challenge is when we do these collect these clinical samples, try to identify the major changes, not only in the level and in the composition. And this patient sample is really difficult to control the timing and when we collect this blood sample. And also, these patients were really difficult to control their diet. So as we know that these bile acid sphingolipids levels is really closely connected to what the patient eat when they eat. So because of this, and when we really need like big data, more patient sample. Otherwise, if you're only looking at a few patients, you will see the variation is huge. I think probably because of this. Another thing is all these patients, they have all different genetic backgrounds. And also maybe they have other complicated disease. This is also can contribute to that. So I think this is very important for us. Another challenge for the clinical sample is when we're looking at it, we try to use these markers for the this patient, but however, I think the there's still has a lot of challenge, because when we're looking at the bile acid composition, we really need to profile entire panels, like more than 40 or 50. But if you want to apply this in the clinic, I think at the current clinical setting, it's not really feasible unless we can really reduce the cost. Otherwise, I think you really cannot use as a routine like blood test we always done in the clinical settings. I think we really need hopefully if we have like more advanced technology, which can help us to develop more practical and then cost-effective method, which can combine with current clinical setting. They already set up some other like scan, and maybe they can working using together to make a better diagnostic. Yeah. Well, I think this is good question, because I think I already heard a lot of debating about this journal review request. And then I think that first of all, I don't think it is necessary we need to provide incentives to the review. But however, I think the review the manuscript is really time consuming and task require a significant expertise. So, and then I think even though we are not provide the monetary incentive, but I think we still need to provide some kind of incentives, just like recognition of this review. So another thing is we had recognition for these, a lot of journals actually, and they actually the publication fee is very high now. But I think as a reviewer, maybe journal can provide some discount. It's not to give the money to the review. Maybe you can give some discount if you want to publish the paper in the journal. I think this is at least can acknowledge the effort, and then you can encourage like more individuals to participate reviews. So another thing is if you provide some kind of incentive, like provide some discount, so that may attract more dedicated reviews. They may put more effort, and then probably the quality of review may maybe improve. And another thing is because if you really just voluntary and people may not pay enough attention for the review, sometimes I think maybe it's not fair for some of the papers. It's not really because anyway, the reviews, I'm so very busy. I didn't get any good anyway, and then I'll just do whatever I like. But if you provide some recognitions and then maybe some incentive, the discount for the publication fees, maybe they will see, yeah, I need to put more effort to make sure what I did, which is really can give back. But another thing is we also have some discussions as consider as a research and scholar in different field. I think the contributing our knowledge, I think this is kind of a responsibility too. So it doesn't necessarily you have to give you the something and you do this work. And then another thing, if you are thinking the other ways, if you review the paper at the same time, I think that you also can learn something from by review the paper. So I think this is also good, especially for the like early stage investigators. I think this is a very good opportunity for them to learn. I also went through this pathway. And then another thing is, I think in order to keep review process, which is really a volunteer, and then they may can help preserve some of the objectivity, because if you really provide some money, people can think, well, I do this only for the money. That's right. But I think if you really just keep them voluntary, I think sometimes maybe can keep the integrity. Let's say like that way. I think maybe that's another thought. And another thing is, I think as a journal, if you really want to record a good review, and also make sure the quality of the paper published in your journal, which is really reviewed fairly and with high quality. I think the one thing is I think you probably need to manage, reduce the operation cost. Doesn't necessarily, because when people they see, for example, for Nature Communication, even though the high impact is a little bit higher, but they cost like 5,000 or 7, 5. I don't know. The recently it's like $5,000 for the publication fee. I think that is way too much. So I think the journal cannot develop as a tool to make money. I think its mainly goal should be contribute to a scientific field. It's not really using this journal to try to make the money. So if you make this money, I think you need to probably give back to the scientific community in some way. For example, if you lower cost for the publication and give some discount for the review for the published papers. And this is just my personal opinion, but we do have some discussion with other journals, because I'm also serving the associate editor for a couple of other journals. So that is always heard this kind of discussion whether we should provide the incentives to the review, and or what kind of incentive is proper. Yeah.